Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start by saying that it's a real honor and a great pleasure for young Greek cinema to be part of one of the oldest and most historic film festivals like Karlovy Vary. Today, we have with us Syllas Tzoumerkas, the director of Homeland, his first feature film that was premiered in Venice last year at the Critics' Week. Argyris Papadimitropoulos, one of the two directors of Wasted Youth. It's his second film. The film was the opening film at the Rotterdam International Film Festival this year. Marie Drandaki, a producer. She has produced Syllas Tzoumerkas film, Homeland, but she has also been involved in the production of Tale 52, the film by Alexis Alexiou, and also the film Academia Platonos by Philippos Tsitos. And Alexis Alexiou, the director of Tale 52, the film was screened, his first film, debut film, which was screened in Rotterdam in 2008. Until recently, Greek cinema was known abroad mostly by the work of Theo Angelopoulos. This has changed the last few years thanks to the work of these young directors. And although their work is very heterogeneous in terms of aesthetics and film language and thematics, they do share like a new ethos, a new collaborative approach to cinema, and they have an eagerness to confront the present with a different gaze. They focus on modern-day Greece with a detached and often ironic way. They stress the personal over the political or the social. They have a micro-history rather than a macro-history approach. They are indifferent to the issue of Greekness, and they make films that are not confined to a local audience, but they address to an international one. In this sense, we can talk about a rupture with analogous to the one that brought the so-called new Greek cinema in the 70s. Nevertheless, we cannot really talk about a movement or a national school yet, not like in the case of New Romanian cinema. It's something that's still in the making. So I would like to pass the microphone to the directors and the producers and ask them what feeds them, what motivates them to do the kind of films they're making today.
I don't think there is one answer in motivate someone to make a film, but I think that we all react to, in a way, we all react to what is contemporary happening in Greek society and what has been happening in the last, let's say, 2 decades. It's a society in a huge turmoil, and I think that this turmoil, growing up in that turmoil and living it right now, has somehow fed us and what we try to do is to apart from making a good movie, which is always what the goal, is to put a reflection on what exactly is going on in a country like Greece. But the thing is that in order to do that, you have to find in order to make that communicate to other people, not only inside Greece, you have to find the principles that dominate it. So I think that's something that, at least for me, is important.
Hello, it's very nice to be here. Thanks for coming. So yeah, I will totally agree with Syllas. I mean, there's not just one answer on this question, and there's thousands of things that make you want to make a movie anyway. I mean, but especially these days, since things are, since we go through a challenging era, it's a challenge to make a film. It's even a bigger challenge to make a film. I mean, except of the things that you want to speak about, which might be personal, political, whatever. you know, it's always very, very interesting to figure out how you're gonna make a film. So this makes the whole process even more interesting.
Hello. Well, actually, I agree with you too. What inspired me in the beginning to produce films, and my first film was Tale 52 with Alexis, was this kind of emergency, that this feeling that we wanted to make a film and we wanted to make it our own way. So we took matters in our hands, and it was a challenge for us to find a way to make it.
I think there are many ways for somebody to express himself artistically, and I mean, there are a lot of easier and cheaper ways than making films. I mean, you can I don't know, draw pictures or write poems or even literature. It's much easier and cheaper. I think everyone who decides to make a film basically really likes cinema, and that's the starting point. I mean, you really have to have a passion for films in order to decide that you want to become a filmmaker. And I think that's at least my starting point.
I'm just kind of interested in what you said, Dimitri, about the collaboration. And I'm kind of curious. I mean, Maria, it's the first time I'm kind of aware of your name, even though I've been living in Greece a little bit. Can you talk about how you got to meet the different filmmakers? There is a sense of collaboration and friendship among you?
Yes. I knew these guys from their short films, so yeah. But we were not friends before making the films. We became friends by doing the films. And now that we're moving on with new feature films, yes, I can say that we are friends. And what I can say about producing in Greece in these days is that you have to improvise a lot to find solutions, to manage crises, and to ask a lot for help from other people, from friends.
I attended the project, the East of the West projects, the work in progress, and the Greek film, whose name I actually forgot, but it was just something different, something new, and I'm sure that the production of films in Greece is probably not very easy, but it's obviously you guys are making great stuff. So it's very different, and it seems like there is sort of a very interesting new voice or not new voice, but you're not settling on traditional means of expression in cinema. It's great, and it's visual. It's not over explained, and I love that. So that's all.
Actually, these films were made a little bit before the financial crisis started in Greece. Nevertheless, as almost everybody commented here, there was like a crisis a social crisis, like a crisis of values. But now the financial crisis is gonna be very difficult, for the new films to be produced. So maybe you could comment on the way you are thinking to approach your new projects, or how you're gonna make movies in the future.
I don't know if there is a sure answer about that. I think that that happened before the big crisis. All these movies were shot before all that, except yours, which was the latest. But I think that we somehow have to find a more stable ground in order to work. Actually, all this that happens right now in Greek cinema, it's sort of jeopardized by the situation. But I think we have to improvise and find the new sources and different ways of again making find a way to make these movies, to do our second and or third film, or for the young directors do their first one. But I think we're gonna sort of have to find a way in all that to deal with it.
you know, there are good things about it. One of them is that since, which is funny to say, but since you don't expect from anybody to fund your film or anything, you just go and shoot it, which keeps the films fresh, and you know, there's like more spontaneous kind of filmmaking. Also, there's the thing that you know, because of these difficulties, there's a kind of even bigger solidarity. I mean, there was already. Most of us are friends with each other, and we help each other. And if you look at each other's credits, you'll find everybody's name there. But now it gets even more.
Yeah, I have no idea how things will turn out, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not very optimistic, to be honest. I mean, Greece never really had a big tradition in filmmaking. And, I mean, it was very difficult to make films even before the crisis. So now it's almost impossible. But I guess there are still ways if you want to make a film.
That's the thing, that it was never easy anyway to make films in Greece. So, you know, it's... I mean, the struggle is not that big because we knew that anyway we have to go through lots of difficulties to make a film. So now it's just the financial part, while before it was much more. At least now, since we made all these films and they did well abroad and also in Greece, I think the ones that are going to fund the films, whether it's state funding, which is something that doesn't exist right now, which is a joke, yeah, or the private funding, at least they trust us as a generation.
What's important is that dealing with all these difficulties, you have to have energy. So I think that all this stuff sort of give us energy and will continue to give us in order to continue to do what we do. So I guess there's no other way anyway. Yeah.
I'm just curious about what you're talking about, like an alternative way of kind of financing films. Looking at a few of the films, they do seem to have production values like shot on film, and there is some kind of care taken. I'm just kind of wondering your opinion on digital cinema, like completely low budget, you know, just shooting on a high definition, you know, video camera, and just shooting it yourselves completely with no funding.
Most of these films are sort of use some of these methods that you say, and sort of mix it with other ones. I mean, we try to find which low budget we're going to do. It's not there's no other question. So you have to choose your low budget. So depending on whatever each one of us wants to do aesthetically and what fits the movie, so we sort of adapt the whole process to the kind of low budget that we're going to do.
I'm just curious, like legally, I mean, I don't want you to say anything that's controversial, but can you make a film without putting insurances in place, without, I don't know, paying people first up?
Anything can be done. It's exactly what Syllas said. I mean, you choose your low budget. It's low budget anyway, even if it's state funded, it's low budget. My case is like no state funding at all, just personal money and private investors, which is like friends. It's funny to say private investors because you know. But we decided to shoot 16 mil because that's what we wanted our film to look like. And then you try to find ways to shoot it the way you like. I mean, I don't really believe that you have to shoot in another way than the way you imagine just because of the financial thing. You have to find ways to make the film the way you imagine it, and then try to cut from something else. You know, I mean, we decided in order to shoot on 16, we decided to cut days, you know, and be very, very precise on what we're going to shoot. Although we didn't have a script, so we couldn't be precise. But you know, it's you know, we found our way, and we said that we're gonna shoot this thing in just 20 days, and you know, no additional days, no matter what. So we made sure that we had the end, which is very important for a film, and then that the scenes that we shot, will make some kind of sense if they put together.
We have to make choices, I think. And the good thing is that these directors here are very good. This is why they make good low-budget movies. And the way we worked, for example, with Syllas was that we had a very close collaboration. We put all the data, the production data we had, and we made choices. So we used the limits that were put upon us from the budget we had, and we use it cinematically.
What's happened as you know, in a lot of countries when the economy has gotten very bad, is that talented people, you all speak English, go to other countries to work. There's a brain drain.
It's not bad. I mean, people moving to other countries, work there, and then maybe do something. This is a dialogue that can be built there. I don't think it's something that someone could be scared of. I mean, it's normal, it's natural, and I think it ends up well.
British film industry is similar. French film industry, a part of that is built that way. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just asking, is it going to happen?
Hopefully, this dialogue will happen back and forth, and I think the more we reach outside international audiences, and the more we can work there and come back, I think that in a sense it's going to continue this flow of energy and more knowledge and all that. So I think I hope it does in a way. It's not as a drain out, but as a dialogue.
And also I think it's an ongoing process. Crisis hasn't reached its deepest end in Greece, so we will see also. I know that many people are thinking about it. I surely do. So we don't know yet, but we're still trying to find a way to be in Greece. It's inspiring and it's interesting, although it's hard, but we'll see.
What I've heard is that because Australia has quite a bit of a Greek population, other Greek-Australian filmmakers want to try and set up Greek-Australian co-productions, but what I've heard is that the co-production treaty can't get in place because the Greek government doesn't kind of want to put it in place.
Those problems do exist. I mean, but we're trying to deal with them. I don't know. It's we all know about bureaucratic things, about no things, no sort of reaction to things and all that. But I think that gradually what we try to do is to sort of make it more logic. I don't know. We have to, everyone, and we certainly do work in that direction to try to make these things as more rational as we can as the process goes.
We can understand that they may not have enough money to support filmmaking or anything, but a big problem is that they lack strategy, to help it. I mean, it's not only money. I mean, they can change things, they can change laws, and they can make co-productions easier. They can bring foreign films to be shot in Greece, so it's at least our crews are happy and they have jobs and tax shelter and all these things. I mean, okay, we understand the lack of money, but we don't understand, and that's what we complain about, the lack of a vision and a strategy to make things easier.
It's not only filmmaking, and it's not only filmmakers. All these movies have happened with a group of artists that are coming from a totally new generation, and this has also an economic aspect, and all those people sort of contributed. We're talking about new actors that have dialogue with European theatre, modern European theatre, new musicians, new photographers. All that is a whole generation of, let's say, of our generation of filmmakers that sort of work together, and this has brought extra energy to what we do. And I think that's another thing that's going to sort of continue and has something to do also with the abroad thing. I mean, it's not only about filmmakers. If a musician goes out and works out and come back, it's a sort of more collaborative work, and with people sharing more artistically than it used to be, and all of us reacting to what is contemporary happening right now in Greece.
what is happening is that there's some productive forces in society, artistic or younger, or that are trying to work through this, and that the old guard, which means the establishment, the state, is pushing back and trying not to have anything change. So what I think we're trying to do is we try not to complain too much, because we've complained a lot, and we complain to each other. And if we're lucky to be able to find a way to do a film, then we do that. And I think we'll work more in a collaboration in the future, which is what we've been saying between us, is that the new generation really talks and works together. So I think in the future we will be doing films much more closely.
Would you say that this new wave or micro new wave is perceived as something like highbrow for general audiences in your country, or not really?
Maybe something I could say, I don't know if you agree, it's, most of these movies had a lot of controversy around them and sort of split audiences in two.
When you make a film, you just want to make this film, but since you do it exactly the way you want it and you don't want to please anyone and you just want to make the film like 100% the way you want it, controversy is a natural thing, because it's impossible to agree with everybody or to please everybody. But yeah, it was a funny thing, you know, because I mean, of course, there's going to be controversy when most of our films are also have quite a big political aspect and point of view.
I also think that you know, the success that the films have enjoyed outside Greece have obliged, you know, an audience in Greece, which is a bit conservative, to see this film with a different eye. I mean, the case of Dogtooth, the film was screened after Cannes and it didn't do very well, but after it was nominated for Oscar, it was released and, you know, it did, you know, much better later on. So that's I think their success abroad helps a lot, and they gives a different perspective to a lot of people in Greece to watch them with a different eye.
It did well when it first came out. I mean, well for an art house film. And then when it was nominated for an Oscar, it's when they made some money out of it, because they gave it in a newspaper on a Sunday as a DVD supplement. So that was much more money than the release in the theaters was. And I think that was their first good money. So that tells you something.
And I don't think it's always pleasant, you know, this thing with the controversy. Being outside the cinema when, for example, Homeland was distributed, it was not always pleasant. But we knew that this would be caused, you know, and it's part of the process. You know, when you challenge things, you have to expect these things. And this is what created a discussion around the films, because otherwise, if everybody thought that, oh, what a wonderful film, or what piece of shit, there wouldn't be any discussion.
Each film, let's say, has a sort of a center inside that its main, let's say, political or family or sexual or anything, like, you know, as a subject. They put all these films put their subject on the agenda, on let's say the public agenda. No matter if we talk about big audiences or less audiences, but what was happening in let's say newspapers and all that, their subject sort of passed in what we say the public discussion.
I'm just kind of wondering about when the reviewers in the newspapers do their reviews of the films. Because I can't read Greek properly, I don't read the newspapers. Do they actually try and discuss films in more of a critical way? Because I know that the Greek nature is to discuss, is to have a dialogue. Or are they just standard kind of reviews? Or is there a bit more kind of bite to them?
It has both. It has like the film reviews, and then it has some other reviews from, let's say, journalists and that write usually on the subject, whether we talk about, let's say, the industry, for example, in the setting of Attenberg, or we talk about in my film about the generations fight. So these were issues that were discussed, or about the new way of families presented in Strela, or the use of the recent historical event Argyris did in Wasted Youth. So I think these issues sort of, that's what I said before. It's they sort of also passed outside, let's say, the narrow film critic discussion.
There are films that deal with society and with what's going on right now. So anyway, the film started the discussion. So it's easy for the journalist also to write about them in another way. I mean, for my film, I was glad to see that it wasn't only film critics that wrote about. I mean, it was like lots of journalists that write about politics, about economy, about whatever, that referred to the film. Or they called me to ask questions and everything, and that was a great thing to happen.
How difficult or how easy is it to deal with all these subjects, that are very vital, like family, male identity or women's identity in your films, all these sort of things?
Most of the films from this, new wave or whatever you want to call it, it's interesting that they somehow deal with the family issue, but they all somehow deal with it, which is something very, very interesting. And it wasn't something that it was intended. I mean, it wasn't that we sat down and we said, okay, let's all make films about the family or something. But somehow it happened, which I find very interesting, because especially in Greece, family has very, we're talking about this holy Greek family thing, and it has very deep foundations, and it's, society and family somehow reflect each other. And since society is going, from wars to wars and wars and wars, it's interesting that we all somehow questioned the Holy Greek family thing, because it's like questioning the foundations of Greek society.
I mean, the problems were really there. Now the crisis happened, so there's an additional point of reference to the Greek cinema thing, or how you're dealing with the crisis, or perhaps there's some interest about the crisis. But the crisis really started in the 80s, which is what Syllas's film is about. And we're children of the 80s. We're children of the socialist 80s, wave. And I think what we all saw all these years is that there was something seriously wrong with how society was, and it was terribly materialistic and inflated in money terms. And that, of course, has now exploded. And that's, in a way, that's much better, because before it was terrible, but you felt very lonely in this terrible thing because everybody was having fun. So now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think the violence was there before, which is what your film really was about.
It's not only violence. It's the family. In family, you have this strange mix of love with patronizing, hypocrisy, political patronizing, ideological patronizing. Everything that sort of happened in our happy families of the 80s, that were living in a sort of a fake economic paradise, sort of came out as a disaster in my generation. So I think that everyone is sort of, telling in different ways this story of decay, and we are all trying to share an anxiety on what is going to be tomorrow, or what's going to be, let's say, the day after. Because if you have the foundations of one's person, you have them like corrupt and decayed and so broken down, then you have to sort of speak about how it was broken down, but also see what's coming after. And I think that that sort of goes into many different movies in many different ways. Either if we talk about Strela, which is a story about a transsexual and her father, or we talk about Wasted Youth, which is about we see the young person that I'm not going to say the movie anyway. Yeah. But it's you're going to see it tomorrow, tonight you're going to see it tonight, but 7 o'clock. But I think that's sort of it's something that created us in many ways.
You're talking a lot about the crisis, social events. Are you and besides the family, what else historically, or are we talking about a break with history, stylistically, formally, in literary terms, or are you also drawing on aspects of Greek culture, Greek history, instead of just creating something by breaking with it?
We do all that you say, but in different ways. Some of us choose to sort of put the history inside the movie and fragment it and break it and see how it connects. Others create a sort of more abstract situation where the history is behind the film. Each one of us used this recent last 30 years history in a very, very different way, and I think that's what makes also this, let's say, number of films interesting. If you see it the one after the other, which is.
And our characters are a product of this recent history. So through them, you reflect whatever happened, and I mean, what they are is what made them be this thing, since, you know, they grew up in these last 30 years of, you know, craziness. And it's not, I mean, because we're talking about, you know, these 30 years of craziness and everything, it's not that Greece before that was a paradise, okay? It was hell before that, but in other terms. You know, we had, I mean, the last 30 years is the years after the dictatorship.
There's always a hell. It just gets worse. But do you sense that what happened here and what happened in Eastern Europe in 89 and 90 was that the events overtook artists. It took a while to adjust. There was too much reality to be compressed into cinema, literature, theater, a lot of the arts. Do you get is this happening? Do you get a sense that this is happening in Greece right now? That you've been overtaken by events. As much as you've tried to depict them, they're bigger than you are. There's a kind of a tsunami of reality happening to you.
But you have to deal with this tsunami and survive and talk about it and learn how to fight with it.
You know, because the thing is that the tsunami is there. So you can't do like it's not there, because it is there. So you have really no other solution. I mean, you have to sort of deal with it. But I don't know, I think that especially for cinema, it's not really happening that much, what you say, this difficulty to deal with what is going on. I think that from all the arts, cinema was sort of ready to deal with the recent events. I don't know what will happen from now on, because the tsunami continues. It hasn't ended.
And also, judging from Alexis and Syllas' next project that I know of, they're not based or something so much on the crisis thing. They have different, you know, subjects. So yeah, I think that we can't be focused only on this.
We're not making films about the crisis. I mean, it's easy. Yeah, it's not that thing. I mean, we would make the same films even if it wasn't the crisis there. It's just easier to start a conversation now because of this. No, you mean? Yes, but my film doesn't talk about the crisis or whatever. I mean, it's inspired by an event that kick-started. That's part of the crisis, okay? But we're not making films because of the crisis or on the crisis or anything. We would make films anyway, and it's. I'm totally sure that you know, the things that inspire us were there anyway. But it's just easier to start you know, especially for you that you're not Greeks. You know, now you're more familiar with what's going on because of the news and everything. So we can start a conversation on this.
I think the older generation of filmmakers, which preceded this generation, and they were making, there was a political cinema was a big deal. They were making a lot of films about the civil war and the dictatorship and all that. And in a way, this generation gets more personal about the crisis. I mean, you can argue that Strela, which is a wonderful film that's here, and it's the story of a transvestite. It's a political film because nobody would have thought that 4 years ago, when he was preparing to shoot it, that it would become part of the mainstream and that the President of the Republic would go and see a film about a transvestite. So I think that's how the personal fits into the political and the turmoil and the change. It's not in-your-face political 70s cinema. It's much different.
I think it made all of us quite focused on the language, on the cinematic language, because if you have to deal with that, you have to. It brings a sort of despair, new humor, and new ways to express that. So I think that's another aspect of what you say. The dealing with all that has made us more conscious on form, because in order to find a form that could sort of express and find balance in all that that's going on, which is quite important.
So thank you very much for being here.